Do you believe it? Middle-class areas, thanks to the cost of living crisis, people are so desperate for cash, they're selling off luxury goods from fine art to watches and even diamonds. Well, founder now of Prestige Pawnbrokers, James Constantinou, joins us now with us. How's business, James?
It's booming at the moment, for sure. Yeah, the phones are ringing off the walls, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
Wow.
and better off people. I mean, they find themselves, I suppose, asset rich and cash poor, and that's where you step in.
Well, that's how the sort of business model's set up. We sort of aim at the high end of the market. So people who have gathered assets during better times and need to cash them in when they haven't got funds around them. That's how it works for us, yes.
If you went into, say, your pawn shop in Guildford and perhaps you wanted to propose to somebody, could you get a decent bargain, or is it actually selling stuff at about their actual value?
Well, pre-loved goods are generally around between a third and half of the new prices. So, and I mean, a diamond is millions of years old. So, you know, if you come in to buy a ring from us, you can probably get a sort of 70, up to 70% saving from a new piece that you might expect to buy in the high street.
So what James, is the deal? So if you pawn something, do you retain the opportunity to redeem it until it is sold? What's the contract you enter into?
Well, I mean, if you bring something to us, whether it's a watch, a car, a piece of art, or some jewellery, you bring it into us, we'll appraise it, we'll lend you roughly up to sort of 60%, 70% of the item's second-hand value. Once we've forwarded the funds to you, the clock starts ticking. You can pay it back at any time during the 7-month loan period, and you'll pay for what you use. If you borrow £100,000 from me, for example, and you have it for 1 month, it'll probably cost you about £102,900. So it'd be £2,900 to borrow 100 grand. And for short-term funding, it's actually very cheap, probably cheaper than the high street bank.
Interesting. What are some of the most weird and wonderful things that you've had come through your doors?
Well, you know, when we get offered a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, we've had Nigerian fighter jets offered to us. We've had Queen Victoria's knickers presented to us, which we actually facilitated the sale of. I think they made about 15 grand at auction. We've had the world's largest pearl, for example. Some really nice memorabilia came to us. Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones, who was a teenager at the time. Some letters were discovered in an attic of his parents' old house, and they were saying, "Mum, I've had my hair cut. I think I'm going to be famous." And it's those sort of things. It's not really about the value of some of these items. It's more about the historical interest, really.
What's the advantage of going to a pawn shop?
Well, we can facilitate a loan relatively quickly. I've already talked about the rate for short-term funding on the larger sums. It's probably cheaper than a bank if you're talking about 1 or 2 or 3, up to maybe 3 months. But the good thing is that we're not doing any credit checks. We're not giving you a bad credit rating if you don't pay it back. We're simply disposing of your assets. You won't end up with a CCJ. You won't end up homeless. The worst thing that can happen is that your goods will be sold. If there's a residue back to you at the end of that process, then we refund you. So if you owe at the end of the loan 100 grand, but the goods make 120,000 through the sale process, then you'll receive £20,000 back. The really good thing about it is really the speed of which it can be done. It can be done within an hour, you know, and some relatively large sums as well.
You know that the stuff coming through your doors isn't stolen goods. You're not handling dodgy stuff.
Well, I think there's probably people out there in the market. I think I would be the last person you would come to if you had some stolen goods. With the credit check, the checks we do in terms of their identity, passports, driving licence, we look at their background, where they live, where they're registered to, and they've got to present us with all that information. They're loaded up on the system, and you know, we carry out our checks thoroughly. To be quite honest with you, it doesn't really happen to us. I mean, I'm not saying we've never had a piece of stolen. We've had 1 or 2 pieces during the 13 years of trading, but it's been very small items that either have been, you know, that have ended up in a robbery or something like that. And they can filter down to you, but they don't generally use us. We're not.
Sorry to interrupt you. Got to let you go. Really fascinating. James Constantinou, founder of Prestige Pawnbrokers. Interesting insight. Thank you very much.